do that, and what was the success behind it?
Well, I mean, I think that the sort of success in the UK has been in training interdisciplinary scientists. So, I mean, in a way, starting, with students when they start out on their research careers. I mean, I think our dilemma is that, in a way, the urgency of the problem means that we can't wait for a whole new generation of, interdisciplinary social scientists to mature and to emerge. But I think that there are many ways in which we can start breaking down, sort of disciplinary boundaries. And I think it's about how we organize our research. I think it's about how we define problems. I think it's about actually how we organize the institutions, the academic and scientific institutions. And I think that there are some very good, sort of lessons that we can learn from examples around the world, actually. Unfortunately, I think, most universities still have faculties and departments and, are organized along those lines, which sometimes act as real barriers and constraints to interdisciplinarity.
Gano, you wanted to add one comment?
Yeah. Just shortly, there are two types of science that we're talking about. What Oren is talking about is understanding how processes develop, and there's another science that looks at management options, at instruments. How can we actually do the change that we need? And I want to be very practical. I think if you want to organize that, the understanding is something that can be done in loose networks. But developing management options and instruments, that requires very coordinated, integrative research. There we have to think about consortia. And in addition, and Kate mentioned that in the beginning, there's always this huge research projects led by natural scientists who then say, okay, we need some social scientists into that. We have to turn this around. And now I must praise the German Ministry for Science. They bring out their calls now and they ask for a significant contribution of social scientists. If they are not there, the project is out. And as a national committee, we have always asked the funders that those projects should be led by social scientists, even though maybe the 90% of the money is spent on ships, aircraft, satellites, and whatever. But they should be led by social scientists. And I think these are very practical steps where you can get to the point where science becomes a better server of society than before.
Juema, you've worked in 3 different countries, if I'm right, China, Japan, and Australia. What's your experience been of successful or not so successful organization of research?
That's a big question and might be a bit sensitive, but I'll try. I think this interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary approach, I mean, whether it is successful or not, it really depends on, it's not like you bring, 10 people from different disciplines and then you bring them into the same room and try to come up with a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary kind of research. It's really, the integration really has to be happening within, your own mind first, rather than trying to bring different people into a room and try to make them talk. So I think the institute or whatever that can really support that kind of approach, not really framing one person, one scientist into one specific kind of faculty or whatever, and then really encouraging them to explore whatever they are really feeling passionate about. I think that could be one indicator of really successful approach toward this human dimension research.
Okay, thank you very much. One final comment, Jim, because you've got a lot of practical experience.
Okay, one final comment. I think that what we need to do is challenge ourselves, because as a community, we're part of a community that perpetuates the non-interdisciplinarity. And we do so because we let people tell us that we have to go get tenure in a particular discipline. We allow our institutions to drive us into a pigeonhole, and then we tell ourselves, but the problems that are required of us require interdisciplinarity. I would say we're part of the problem as a community if we're going to allow ourselves to be driven down this particular set of traditions and culture and way of doing things.
Sorry, Nicole, you wanted one final comment.
Yeah, final comment is we speak about interdisciplinarity since decades in the policy circles and in the scientific community. The disciplinarity is increasing and deepening. So it's really as if we were failing totally to grasp reality with words here.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're now going to open it up to comments, and I can see already masses of hands. So I think what we'll have to do, and there is also a practical problem, that I don't think we've got enough microphones. So the panel are now going to have to surrender most of their microphones. I think if we could just have 2, perhaps, shared between all of them, so we can get enough. If we've got 2. Now, the way we're going to do this, and I must insist, there was some sort of framework behind those questions, although it might not have been immediately obvious, but we're going to do it by clusters or by topic. And what we're going to start with first is roughly the same way that we did the questions. What are the new areas of research or the new ways of framing research questions that are necessary to face the sort of challenges that Orem was giving? Then we'll go on to policy making, the relationship between policy making and the research community. But I just want to start with questions about what are the new areas of research or new areas of framing research questions that may give that cutting-edge research. Any hands up? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll take 4 at a go, and then we'll come back. Do you want to start if you've got the mic?
I got the mic.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I should say before you start, please don't make this a long, rambling question. If you want to make a brief comment, do, but make it brief and then add a question. Please, there's lots of people who want to make contributions, so make it short.
Very, very quickly, what we need in the global dimensions is to follow up in 2 of the key issues here. The abolition of slavery was underpinned by all sorts of issues, but primarily because it was something that was considered a moral question. In order to frame and reframe these issues, we need to start also inviting to the table the humanities and the philosophers and telling us and framing and helping us in framing to what extent these issues are massively ethical problems, to what extent they build upon the major injustice of poverty and the severe poverty which might be considered a violation of human rights, and to question dramatically that we cannot build up new knowledge on top of ideas of poverty that are driven by the development aid community and the bureaucracies that have made out of poverty a technical question that can be managerially driven and organized and create now the Millennium Development Goals of adaptation.
Okay, thank you very much. Frame it as a moral question. There was one there. Did you want to ask a question on this area? Something else. I think you wanted one. If you could. Have we really not got more mics? Oh, these are all working. Okay. Is it working if you push the button? Try the...
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting discussion. And my question to all the panelists is that, in fact, what we see the role of the social scientist? Our role is only to generate knowledge or transform this knowledge into policy also. I think most of the panelists, we still think, or social scientists, we think that our role is to just create robust knowledge. And policymakers automatically will see this knowledge and transform. I think that is not enough. We have to take a catalyst role as a social scientist to change this world, to transform this knowledge into policy, into action. And that's why our role is so more proactive. And this is our difference between natural scientists and social scientists, because moreover that our knowledge should be more on problem-solving approach. And it is nice to see that the German government is now coming up, okay, more focus on social scientists. But again, the question is, who defines the issue? Not only how the define issue, who defines the issue? If the defined issue is the natural scientist, social scientists again remain in the marginalized. And most of the cases, social scientists still remain as marginal. That's the
All right,
issue.
thank you very much. We had a question here.